What just happened at Ellen Road? Chelsea, the team that beat Barcelona 3-0 last week, the team that held Arsenal to a 1-all draw with 10 men, just got absolutely destroyed 3-1 by a Leeds United side that was sitting in the relegation zone. This was not just a loss. This was a statement defeat. This was a wake-up call. And honestly, Chelsea fans, we need to talk about what went so horribly wrong on Wednesday night. Welcome back, Chelsea fans. Before we break down this disaster, drop a comment telling me which country you are watching from. And if you want honest analysis like this, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel because we are not here to sugarcoat anything. We keep it real. Now let's dive into the 5 things we learned from this embarrassing performance. Number 1. Enzo Maresca is to blame for this disaster. And I am not being reactionary here, this is a pattern. After finally getting a consistent defensive pairing that kept 3 consecutive clean sheets and delivered brilliant performances against Barcelona and Arsenal, what does Maresca do? He decides to completely scatter everything with the most bizarre lineup I have ever seen. Let me paint the picture for you. Maresca paired Tosin and Benoit Badiashile together in central defense. These two together? The Disaster Boys. Meanwhile, Trevoh Chalobah, who has been in fantastic form, who has been one of our best defenders this season, gets pushed to right back. You read that correctly. Maresca moved one of his in-form center backs to right back just to accommodate Tosin and Badiashile, while keeping both Malo Gusto and Reece James on the bench. Malo Gusto and Reece James are actual right backs, natural right backs, players who understand that position, and they were sitting on the bench watching Chalobah struggle out of position. This is not squad rotation. This is self-sabotage. Maresca has done this so many times this season. Against Brentford, we saw weird rotations. Against Sunderland in the league, more strange lineups. Against Karabag in Europe, unnecessary changes. And now, Leeds United. Here is the problem. Maresca over-rotates to the point of failure. You cannot build consistency and chemistry if you are constantly changing half the team. Yes, we have a big squad. Yes, everyone deserves chances. But when you finally find a formula that works, when you finally get clean sheets and solid performances, you stick with it. You do not blow it up for a midweek game against a relegation-threatened team. The players who delivered against Arsenal deserve to start against Leeds. They earned it. But Maresca decided to gamble, and Chelsea paid the price. This is the biggest enemy of Maresca's management. He rotationed himself into disaster. Do you think Maresca's rotation policy is helping or hurting Chelsea this season? Drop your answer in the comments because I genuinely want to know what you think. Number 2. Tosin is the worst defender in Chelsea history. And yes, I know that is a bold statement, but hear me out. I have watched Chelsea for years. I have seen bad defenders. But Tosin might be the worst I have ever seen in recent memory. He's worse than Badiashile on his worst day. He is worse than Axel Disasi. He is genuinely tragic. Let me give you the facts. Tosin is 6 foot 5 inches tall. That is 6.5 feet of height, and yet somehow he cannot challenge for headers. In the 6th minute, Badiashile, who is shorter than Tosin, outjumped him at the near post to score Leeds' first goal. Tosin was right there. He was marking Badiashile, and he just let him win the header. How does a 6'5" defender lose a near-post header? But it gets worse. Tosin cannot win duels either. Leeds forwards were running past him like he wasn't even there. Lucas Nemcha and Dominic Calvert-Lewin had a field day because Tosin was nowhere to be found. He is supposed to be a defender. That is his job. Defend. But he doesn't do it. And the 3rd goal. Oh my goodness, the 3rd goal. 72nd minute. Chelsea are trying to mount a comeback after Pedro Neto scored to make it 2-1. There's still hope. And then, Tosin has a terrible touch. Malo Gusto wins a tackle deep in Chelsea's own half and passes the ball square to Tosin. A simple pass. And Tosin's first touch is so bad that he loses the ball. Leeds pounce on it, and within seconds, Dominic Calvert-Lewin is scoring to make it 3-1. Game over. All because of Tosin. That 3rd goal killed any momentum Chelsea had. It ended the match, and it was entirely Tosin's fault. This is not the first time either. Tosin has been at fault for multiple goals this season. He is a liability every single time he plays, and yet Maresca keeps selecting him. I don't understand it. There are academy players who would do a better job. There are loan players who would be more reliable. Tosin Adarabioyo should not be starting for Chelsea. Period. Number 3. No Caicedo, no party. Simple as that. Chelsea's midfield looked completely different without Moises Caicedo, and not in a good way. Leeds United overran our midfield in the first half. They pressed high, they won second balls, they dominated the middle of the park. And Chelsea had no answer. The pairing of Enzo Fernandez and Andre Santos got absolutely cooked in the first half. They looked lost. Enzo was trying to do too much, trying to cover for the lack of defensive stability. Santos, who is still young and developing, was overwhelmed by the intensity. Leeds Tonica and Ethan Ampadu ran the show. They dictated the tempo. They won every 50-50 ball. Chelsea were second best in every department. And here's the brutal reality. Caicedo is suspended. He picked up a red card against Arsenal, which means he will miss the next game against Bournemouth and the game after that against Everton. 2 massive fixtures. 2 games where Chelsea desperately need their defensive midfielder to control the tempo and protect the backline. Caicedo is Chelsea's engine. He covers so much ground. He breaks up opposition attacks. He starts Chelsea's counterattacks. He's everywhere. And when he's not playing, you see exactly what happens. The midfield gets overrun, the defense gets exposed, the team loses its balance. Maresca needs to find a solution quickly. Maybe it's bringing in Leslie Ugochukwu, who has barely played this season. Maybe it's adjusting the formation to give Enzo more defensive support. But whatever the solution is, it needs to happen fast because Chelsea can't afford to drop more points.
Number 4. Chelsea's mentality is still fragile. This is something that has plagued Chelsea all season. One week they look like world beaters, the next week they crumble. Against Barcelona, Chelsea were dominant. 3-0 win. Clinical, confident. A week later against Arsenal, even with 10 men, Chelsea showed fight and character to get a 1-0 draw. But then Leeds happened, and suddenly Chelsea looked like a team with no belief, no fight, no resilience. After Leeds scored in the 6th minute, you could see the heads drop. There was no urgency, no aggression, no desire to get back into the game quickly. Chelsea let Leeds dictate the tempo for the entire first half. Even when Pedro Neto scored early in the second half to make it 2-1, there was no real push to get the equalizer. Chelsea did not throw bodies forward, they did not take risks, they played scared. And when Tosin gave the ball away for Leeds' 3rd goal, the game was over. No one even tried to fight back after that. This mental fragility is a serious problem. Chelsea have the talent, they have the quality, but they do not have the mentality to grind out results when things are not going their way. When the first goal goes against them, they panic. When they fall 2 goals behind, they give up. That cannot happen at a club like Chelsea. Leaders like Reece James need to be on the pitch for these moments. Players like Cole Palmer, who came on as a substitute, need to be starting and setting the tone from the beginning. Chelsea need warriors, not passengers. And on Wednesday night, too many Chelsea players were passengers. Number 5. The lack of depth in key positions is killing Chelsea. Yes, Chelsea have a massive squad. Yes, they spent hundreds of millions of pounds on players. But when you actually look at the depth in key positions, it is not as strong as people think. At right back, Chelsea only have Malo Gusto and Reece James. Both were on the bench against Leeds and Trouble Chalobalo had to play out of position. Why? Because Maresca wanted to play Tosin and Badiashile together. That is a coaching decision, not a depth issue, but it shows the problem. In defensive midfield, Chelsea are entirely dependent on Moises Caicedo. When he does not play, the team falls apart. Enzo Fernandez is not a defensive midfielder. He's a box-to-box player who needs a destroyer next to him. Andre Santos is still raw and inexperienced. And maybe the biggest issue is leadership. Chelsea do not have enough players who demand standards. Players who hold their teammates accountable. Players who refuse to accept defeat. When things go wrong, Chelsea crumble because there are not enough leaders on the pitch to steady the ship. So there you have it. 5 things we learned from Chelsea's 3-1 loss to Leeds United. Maresca's rotation killed the team. Tosin Adarabioyo is a disaster. Caicedo's absence was felt badly. Chelsea's mentality is still fragile. and the depth in key positions is not as good as it should be. This was a terrible result. Leeds were sitting in the relegation zone before this game. They had lost 4 games in a row. They were desperate for points. And Chelsea, sitting in 4th place, coming off brilliant performances against Barcelona and Arsenal, just rolled over and died. That is unacceptable. Chelsea are now stuck on 24 points. They're 4th in the table, but teams below them are catching up. Arsenal are pulling away at the top. Manchester City are not far behind. If Chelsea keep dropping points like this, they will be fighting for Europa League spots, not Champions League spots. Maresca needs to figure out his best 11 and stick with it. He needs to stop over-rotating. He needs to trust the players who deliver. And he needs to find a solution for when Caicedo is not available. Because right now, there is no plan B. Before I go, I have one final question for you. Do you still believe Chelsea can finish in the top 4 this season? Or do you think we're heading for another mid-table finish? Drop your predictions in the comments and make sure you like and subscribe for more honest Chelsea analysis. See you in the next one.